Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of KSP Resurgence. Last episode we were able to do an interplanetary mission to Valhilheim. In fact, it was the first of this series. I'm going to start this episode out by going to Kors, or Silly Space Station, just to grab a little bit of science. Because we're going to be needing that science for some things later on. Now, this space station has been in orbit for a while, so I'm going to send the crew back later in this episode. But speaking of sending crew back, we're also going to send the Pathfinder, our interplanetary vessel, back to Sanctar, the Kerbals' homeworld. I was going to try to do like a direct transfer, but it wasn't, the orbits of Sanctar wasn't lining up, so I did something. I just exited Valheim orbit, and I just did a maneuver around Harmonia, the star. Now, these cryogenic tanks aren't from the Cryo Tanks mod, they're actually from another mod called Chemical Storage. It's made by the same guy who made the Chemical Technologies mod. They look really nice, they're way more customizable than the Cryogenic Tanks mod. So it's really nice. You can have them having different colors, you can have them insulated with foam, you can have them with foil. It's a really great mod. So I'm plotting out the maneuver just to get home, and this has been in space for a long time now. So it's finally time to get the Kerbals home. Now I did put a lab on Pathfinder, but I didn't put an antenna on it, so I can't actually transmit the science until I get back home. Well, even then, I won't be able to transmit it without an antenna, because for some reason the built-in antennas cannot transmit science. Which I really think is, I just don't like it. It's just super annoying. So, I sent up a space shuttle to, with an antenna, so that would solve the issue. And I'm not gonna put labs on my interplanetary or interstellar vehicles anymore, because I just get way too much science. It's practically cheating at this point. So I'm gonna have a new rule, the science experiments, the science lab can only process science from where it is. So I can't get science reports from the surface I land on unless the science lab is actually there. So I'm not gonna be able to process any surface samples or any science from the surface of a body without having a surface base. So that's gonna make things a little bit more difficult and a little bit less cheaty. So I did end up going from basic nuclear thermal rockets to mid-tier fusion engines with this. Still interplanetary tier. It's not like anything not like a Daedalus drive or anything. It's like it's a Discovery fusion engine. That's why I unlocked. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to use the fusion engines because helium-3 is really hard to get. I mean, this is science mode. I won't have to worry about actually buying it. But I don't want to do that, because that's kind of cheating. So, unfortunately, Celestial Harmony is not compatible with Space Dust, so that's going to make harvesting stuff like Deuterium and Helium-3 way harder. I really wish Space Dust played a bit nicer with system replacers. Who knows, maybe I could get it to work. Maybe I could make a config myself. Maybe if I delete a certain file, I can make it work. Anyway, just like that, we are back at Sanctar, and the Kerbals are finally home. Well, not yet. They'll be in orbit for a while, because I have a lot of science to process. Here's a nice cinematic shot of us slowing down. Beautiful. Now, we are now in orbit, but I didn't get us in the circular orbit just yet because one, I wanted to split the burn up because our TWR is abysmal, and second, I want to make our inclination as flat as possible just so the Destiny space shuttle has a bit easier of a time rendezvousing, because my space shuttle doesn't necessarily have the most delta V. I mean, it can only do stuff in very low Sanctar orbit, let alone going anywhere further than that. And also, don't try and make it do too inclined of an orbit, because then it won't be able to descend. So I am going to do some redesigns of the shuttle, because I felt like there's some things I need to change about it. I felt like it was too unstable with the RCS, so I moved the docking port further back. I also gave it a drone core so it could carry more crew members, and also fly unmanned. So with the science we did get from cores, I ended up going to buy a probe core. I didn't have enough science to get the second node, so I went to cores again just to get it. And this is Destiny Block 2. The actual core stage doesn't really change much. It's a Destiny shuttle. I moved around the RCS ports and moved to the docking port just so it'll be a little bit easier to dock with things. The ascent is somewhat unremarkable, except this one new screen I did put in. So I do separate the recoverable center tank from the space plane. You'll see a pretty cool multi-vessel tracking screen I made. It's coming up very shortly, so I hope you like it. I really do like Waterfall. It's a mod that adds realistic 3D plumes to engines. I don't see a lot of people, or I do see a lot of people using it, but it just kind of annoys me when people don't use it in videos, because they already have like all the other graphical mods except for Waterfall. So anyway, here's that screen I was talking about. I did speed up the footage of the second video just so they end at the same time. Just because I didn't want to do any weird editing voodoo, that's all. Sometimes when I'm editing a video, I have to do a bunch of weird things to make things work. But in the end, it does look pretty nice. Anyway, we're gonna rendezvous with Pathfinder now and bring our brave Kerbals home. Rendezvous are actually pretty easy in Kerbal's space program. You don't really have to worry about what time you launch your spacecraft unless you're some resource, whether it be life support or electricity, makes it so that you can't be in orbit for too long. Because if you can't get a good rendezvous, just wait in orbit or two, or several if you have to, until your intercepts line up pretty well. At the end of the ascent, the Destiny shuttle didn't have much fuel to work with, but thankfully the rendezvous was very efficient and didn't require much Delta V, like at all. Now, one problem with Pathfinder is that the side docking ports, the solar panels prevent anything from docking there, so I'm just going to use a front docking port. And also, not to mention the gravity ring also that makes things a little bit more harder than I'd like. Thankfully, the RCS was much more stable here in this new model, which is really nice. It can still hold 6 Kerbals, but I can fly unmanned now, so I don't have to send it up with a pilot, allowing me to transfer the entire crew home. Now, I did process all of the science off camera just because I didn't want all the time warping on the video, because I feel like the flashing lights may affect some viewers negatively, so that's why I cut it out. It's also just long and kind of like filler, so I don't want to waste any time with that. Now, I always land Destiny in the ocean just because I'm afraid I don't want to try to land it at the Kerbal Space Center, because for one, actually making sure you land there is really difficult, and two, actually landing without crashing is another part. If you're landing on water, you don't really have to worry about it, because it's really easy to land in the ocean and to end up on a trajectory to the ocean. And also, you just gotta make sure you're not descending downwards too fast, too rapidly. You gotta make sure your vertical velocity isn't crazy. Horizontal velocity is typically okay, considering that you got rid of that mostly in the lower atmosphere. Because air brakes work a lot better when in the lower atmosphere. And the air brake physics here are kind of weird, because they don't start generating drag and start accumulating heat and creating drag until you're almost fully deployed, which is a little weird. Stock KSP aerodynamic engine, the aerodynamic engine in stock Kerbal is a little weird. There's a mod that fixes that. It's called FAR, adds a new engine. I might try that in a future playthrough. Maybe I'll consider it. And we had a little bit of a rough landing, because I think the Block 2 is a little bit more unstable, but it can still land. Now, I had a bunch of science lying around, now I can buy a lot of stuff. So for starters, I bought a bunch of structural parts and bigger fuel tanks. And I did end up unlocking better fusion engines and also some nuclear reactors. I don't really need big nuclear reactors because I'm not using any electrothermal, like plasma rockets or anything. And besides, the Discovery fusion engine does come with a tokamak reactor of its own. Not sure how efficient it is. I do want to save my fusion fuel because helium-3 is really hard to find. Deuterium is actually really abundant, but the Discovery only runs on deuterium and helium-3. It can't just run on deuterium. Though there is another engine that isn't as good, but it can run on deuterium and lithium. But if you add helium-3 to the mix, it works better in every way. But I'm probably not going to use it unless helium-3 proves to be an issue. I'm probably going to add a recipe to the Kerbal colonies recipe list, just so I can mine helium-3 and pretend that there's a rover actually doing the regolith harvesting. But I'm going to make it so that it's very, very slow just to balance things out. And I am returning the crew of cores and actually bringing them back to Sanctar because they've been in orbit for a long, long time. For like 5 years, I think. That's almost as long as it's quite a bit longer than the Pathfinder crew experienced. Firefly is once again creating stunning visual effects. And we are on our way back home. These 4 brave Kerbals have endured for a long time, and they'll probably just end up on a colony somewhere indefinitely now. Yeah, whatever, they're Kerbals, they can handle it. And also today, I am doing a Krob colony with Kerbal colonies. To be honest, I feel like it's a little bit too easy. You only need 5,000 rocket parts to start a self-sustaining colony that can expand. But to be honest, I don't really care. I didn't want to send a massive weird launch vehicle, weird thing just to get enough rocket parts to build a colony. And to be honest, I don't really care. My headcanon just says that they have only enough rocket parts to actually build a drill to get more rocket parts, and then they can just build a colony with that. And I did get a little bit more science, so I am just going to spend it on, I'm going to get aerospace tech just because I do like some of the engines in there. I might build a space plane later, but I'm not actually sure if I'll do that. I do have stuff like Opt space plane and Near Future Aeronautics that'll make things a lot cooler. If you're wondering where this command pod is from, it's from the Taurus HCV mod, or Heavy Crew Vehicle mod. It's somewhat dated, but I think it still looks pretty cool, especially the IVAs. The interiors look amazing. But it's not FreeIVA compatible, so I can't actually unbuckle, so it's just kind of sad. So I am designing the vehicle that will land on Krob and assemble the colony. I did make sure to land in a place that was abundant with ore and metallic ore. There's a weird glitch with Kerbal colonies where it will try to mine metal ore instead of metallic ore, which are two completely different resources. Thankfully there's a patch, but I didn't end up installing it. So I won't be able to mine any metallic ore in this episode, but in the next one I'll probably be able to build something. And by the way, I'm thinking of having a live stream for interplanetary vehicle design, but I do think I might need a little bit more science before I'll be ready to buckle down and get the live stream done. Not to mention, live streams are also pretty difficult to schedule because you have a lot of things going on with your life. You have to make sure that your house is going to be quiet before you start recording. Not to mention that you have to do it at a time where everyone's going to be acceptable with it. Because I do believe there are some people in different time zones that are going to be watching the live stream, and gotta make sure I'm streaming at a time that's acceptable, that's tolerable for everyone. So a lot of work has to go into making a live stream. I decided to make this lower stage be powered by Hydrolox just because it's more efficient. And I am using these rocket engines from Rocket Motor Menagerie. It's a part mod that has a bunch of space shuttle-esque rockets. It's a really cool mod. So it also gives me the engine used for the core stage of the Destiny space shuttle that I constructed. Like always, or like usually, I'm going to do a Methalox lower stage. Methalox is a really good rocket propellant. It's more efficient than kerosene, but still dense enough so I can actually use it in a decently sized stage. Because hydrogen, especially with chemical technologies installed, requires a lot of fuel tanks to get you any delta V. Because hydrogen is not dense at all. Because hydrogen takes up very little space. It takes up a lot of space, I'm sorry. It's not dense, so you need a lot of fuel tanks to get it to work. So this is the colony thingy I've constructed. You know, very original name. And you may be wondering, what's the lander powered by? It's powered by diborane, which is it's an element with boron and hydrogen, similar to pentaborane. And this mod is kind of with chemical technologies, the exotic form of, it's an exotic analog to methane, so any engine that burns methane will be able to burn diborane. Which is pretty cool, I must say. I didn't use it on the lower stage just because my headcanon says diborane is super toxic, the Kerbal Space Center won't want that. So I didn't need to use diborane's extra efficiency and thrust for the lower stage, so I just decided to just use Methalox this time. We actually ended up getting a really good ascent, really good gravity turn, so the burn to circularize was, I can't pronounce that. The burn to get into orbit was very cheap, so that was really good. Now I didn't have enough batteries to activate all these engines at once, so I had to I can only activate 2 of them, and I had to let the alternators recharge the batteries. But I did pack solar panels on this, so that problem should be gone now. In case you forgot, Krob is a gray and blue moon with lots of crystals on it. It's a very interesting place to go to, but the crystals can prove challenging when trying to build a colony. I do have parallax collisions disabled, but I'm still going to have to place my structures with Kerbal colonies pretty, I have to put some thought into placing them just so it still looks good. But then again, the crystals can kind of add some pretty cool flair. And because the upper stage does have space shuttle engines, they have a lot of gimbals, so you can see them move around all the time, which is kind of funny, to be honest. I just got a rough encounter, and I'm going to do a mid-course correction. Mid-course corrections are always very cheap and very easy to do. They're really good for making sure you're on the right track. I got a lot of Kerbals on this ship just because I do need a lot of engineers just so I could actually build things. I'm gonna send more over. In fact, if you want to go to this colony, I do have a forum for Kerbal applications in the description, so please check that out. If you fill out that form, I'll make sure you're in the next episode or an upcoming episode. Because sometimes I forget to add the Kerbals that are on the list. Anyway, our upper stage is running low, but we don't care because we still have way more than enough fuel to actually do the landing. Now, I'm making sure I'm landing in an area rich with resources. Now, because Kerbal Colonies uses Kerbal constructs, I really don't have to worry about the how hilly somewhere is. So I just went to the place with the most ore and metallic ore, and that place just so happened to be the Highlands. This really resource-rich part coming up, so that was really convenient. Once again, I must say the IVAs of this Taro Smog is amazing. The Taro Smog. It adds a command pod with a bunch of other 3.75 meter parts. I must say, once again, it is very, very dated, but still looks amazing. It actually plays surprisingly nice with mods like Restock, although I do have to move the stuff like docking ports and parachutes around just so it remains flush. To be honest, I'd love someone to remake this mod just so it be in the Restock-like style of parts. And one really good thing about Krob is that it has a bunch of these really cool geodes. But one thing that bothers me is that the scatters won't make up their mind on where to be, so if I'm far out there in one spot, but if I get closer, they just disappear and move somewhere else. But still, I really like the geodes, and I love the crystals on Krob. Krob is probably my favorite moon in the Sanctar system. Anyway, we have touched down successfully, and we are sliding across the surface. I mean, what's the deal with landing gear in Kerbal Space Program? It's like made of ice. It slips across everything. It's the most annoying thing ever. I wish someone would make a patch that gives the landing legs friction, because this is the most annoying thing. And also, of course, have to shut down all the engines, or else I'll end up pressing shift accidentally and sending the lander on its merry way to somewhere I don't want it to go. Anyway, Kerbal Colonies allows us to build colonies with 5,000 rocket parts, and then it makes me place down all these Kerbal Constructs buildings. Now, it's still somewhat hilly here, so some of the some of the buildings are gonna look a little jank, especially the Tier 1 barracks because it has grass, which does not mix at all with Krob. But I do believe the upgrades do away with the grass and have a bit of a similar approach to the gray hexagon thingy that Kerbal Constructs adds, which thankfully kind of does allow me to place buildings down without it looking really weird. Now with this, you're able to mine ore to convert that to fuel, and mine metallic ore to convert it to rocket parts to actually build stuff here. It's really cool. I'm finally going to be able to construct big interplanetary vehicles, and in the future interstellar vehicles, without having to send up 50 different massive rockets, which is going to be really annoying. Thankfully, we have this colony now. We'll have to build some more buildings, and also have to install a patch that will actually fix the weird issue with metal ore, metallic ore thing I mentioned earlier. But thankfully, that will allow us to mine metallic ore and convert that to metals and then rocket parts. I might make a custom recipe just to have it go straight to rocket parts, just for convenience. But then again, I probably won't do that. That'll be kind of cheeky. So this is our colony of Krob. Anyway, that will be the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. Bye!